All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome. All right, so welcome to our last and final Healthy Habits segment for this session. Thank you guys all for joining, and thank you for those tuning in. Today's session is going to be a little bit shorter than normal. We want to get on to celebrating a little bit and talking with each other about what we learned throughout. So our cooking demo, it's going to be nice and quick. Today we're going to be making a Tuna Garden Casserole. So if you guys remember previously, we made the white corn, or the corn and white fish chowder. So we're kind of building off of the fish theme a little bit, and we're doing a tuna casserole today. So has anybody ever had like a tuna melt?
Yeah.
Or anything similar? Okay. Even more specifically, has anybody ever had like a tuna casserole before?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, perfect. So for those of you who've had it before, this shouldn't be anything new. Maybe you'll see a couple of ingredients that you wouldn't otherwise put in your casserole. Like we have some kale, we have some bell pepper. So sometimes people add only a few vegetables, but you can venture out a little bit and add some additional ones. So we're gonna get right to it. As you can see, I already got the pasta going. I've been cooking this for about like 5 minutes or so. Depending on how you want your pasta in the casserole, you know, there's different ways to cook your pasta. You can do like al dente. Yeah, or like, that's the only one that I know. But al dente is where it's like chewy. And then I just prefer for like if like well done is like a little bit even more chewy than that, or like softer. Anybody else know any ways to cook your pasta?
You want it a little bit not so tender.
That's a great
Put
point.
it in the oven.
There you go.
Cook the rest of the way.
That's actually a great point. I wasn't even going to bring that up. I'm glad you did. Yeah, so we'll cook this probably al dente, because somebody just brought up, you know, since we're going to be putting it in the oven for, what does it say, about 25 minutes, it's going to be cooking even more. So you don't want to have to deal with, has anybody ever cooked pasta to where it starts becoming like, it starts separating? Yeah. So we don't want to do that. So actually, you know what,
Sometimes I put oil in my water before you start boiling it to keep it from sticking together.
It's a great
Or a
idea.
pat of butter.
Oil or
butter.
Or would you put salt in it before you boil it? A little salt?
I do.
So
No.
I did.
I wouldn't if I'm making a casserole.
Yeah, so I did just a teeny bit. And when I say a teeny, I literally just did like a dash. Not a pinch, I literally just did like a little tiny bit. And I also did a little bit of oil for the separation. The salt, some people say it adds the flavor to it. I've heard that there's other ways to add the salt, like it does something to the water itself where it doesn't have so much. Like, does anybody ever use a humidifier in their room or houses?
Yeah.
Some of them say you should add a little pinch of salt to them if they're not working properly. And
Do baking soda.
or baking soda, I guess, depending on the model. But if it says salt, it's because it helps, like, basically, literally, the water molecules not really stick together where it can become more steam.
You can boil it in the bouillon.
Or you can do bouillon. I've done that before. Sometimes I'm cooking rice in a rice cooker. I'll put a little bouillon cube in there. Uh-huh. All right, so you know what? This is probably good. I'm going to take this off the heat. Usually, if you're cooking pasta, you're going to want to strain it and rinse it so it doesn't cook. It doesn't keep cooking. And we're going to do a little version of that. I'm just going to kind of strain it a little bit. And then just kind of cool it off just a little bit while we're getting the rest of our ingredients prepped so it doesn't.
Put some ice cubes in there.
That's a good idea. You can do some ice
With
cubes.
ice cubes, it'll stop it immediately.
That's a great idea. I've only ever done water. I've only ever done cold water. But ice cubes is actually a really good idea too. You can put it in a strainer. That's what I do sometimes. I'll put it in like a strainer and run cold water over it. And once the warm water turns cold, that's how I know that it's not cooking anymore. Well, we'll just cool it down just a little bit. I'm just going to set that aside. All right, so step 1, oven at 375. Step 2, you want to boil up your pasta, all set there. Heat the oil in a skillet. We got that going. You're going to mix the onion. So I just got some regular white onion. If you want to use red, more power to ya. Plop those in there. Says celery and bell pepper too. I'm going to add them all at the same time just for time's sake. I don't see much of a reason why you shouldn't be able to. It says you should wait a little bit. I'm just going to add them all in there anyway. They're all going to get to know each other in the pot anyway, right? Or the casserole dish. So for this dish, it says to use a, where does it say it? It says something quart dish. Does anybody see where that's at? Pour into...
This number,
No, I thought that it mentioned how big of a baking dish that you should use, but it doesn't look like that it does. So for the baking dish, I think this is about like 4 quarts or so. This is kind of the size that I went for. We're going to see if it's big enough or if it might be too small, seeing how much pasta that we have. This, let me see. I'm just not sure where it would say. This is an old one too. This is an old Corningware. They do. Yeah, I love those things. Yeah, I collect a bunch of Pyrex. I have this and like a bunch of other casserole dishes and baking dishes from the 70s and stuff. They're worth some money. I found 2 of them by the side of the road on my bike rides in the city. Yeah. Yeah. A little off topic, but sometimes when I'm, driving by like something by the side of the road, I always slow down and like look and see if there's anything of interest. I can't be the only one, right?
Yeah, I found a treadle sewing machine on the curb.
There we go. All right, so we're going to cook up the vegetables a little bit, just get it a little bit soft. Now that the onion and pepper's all set, we're going to add in some garlic, the sherry, and the kale. All right, so I have never cooked with sherry before. We've cooked with white wine vinegar in the past, but I've never actually cooked with sherry. So I think it's a type of alcohol, so it has that flavor. We're going to cook it down enough where it's not going to have any alcoholic effect or anything like that. It's just for the flavor. I know.
So will it fire up?
Say again?
Will it fire up? Some wine you put in there and it fire up a little bit?
That's a great question. It should not fire up. 1, we're not dealing with flames. 2, I don't think that the alcohol... Well, okay, this is 18%. There probably actually is enough to make it if we really wanted to. But there's no open flame, and I'm only going to use what the recipe calls for. So most recipes, they take that into consideration, and they're not just going to make it like super, super strong. All right, so 1 teaspoon of minced garlic is 1 garlic clove, so we're going to do 2 teaspoons. When dealing with minced garlic, there's all that liquid in there. And some people are tempted to skim off the liquid and use it in their recipes, but you don't want to do that. Does anybody know why? Why? It needs to be kept in the liquid for it to stay preserved. So you need that liquid. As sad as it may be, you just have to wait until you're done with all of the garlic, and then you can use that. That's just like a best practice when using stuff like this that has a long shelf life. Like pickle juice, some people like to drink pickle juice. Do we have any pickle juice drinkers in the house? A couple people, no shade. I'm not a huge pickle guy. Like the little like the pepperoncinis and stuff in there.
Is the one in the jar, the garlic in the jar, is potent as just the regular garlic bulb.
Okay. But the reason I bring that up is because just like pickles, you don't want to drain the juice because the pickles themselves are going to go kind of same thing if you're dealing with minced garlic.
Anyway.
Yes. All right, we're going to pour in a little bit of sherry. It says we're going to do a 1/4 cup. A little bit.
That's what the real, chefs do. The chef, Jeff.
Deanna says, getting fancy, Chef Jake.
Thank you, Diana. Appreciate you, my friend. Yes, it is a little fancy. All right, so we're going to cook that down a little bit. While there's still liquid in there, you want to put in the kale. Kale needs that liquid, kind of like when we cook with the mushrooms that, for the mushroom soup, we add a little bit of water. It wasn't just the oil, because it helps, actually, exactly, helps steam it down. So we're not only going to cook down the sherry, we're also going to steam the kale a little bit. So you're supposed to cover this.
So you don't cut the kale?
So if you get full-size kale, it's a great question. Yes, if you're going to get full-size kale, you're going to want to cut it down. I'm glad you brought that up. You're also going to want to cut down the stems.
Use a certain kind of kale, though. We got so many kales.
Yes, I used baby kale for this because I wanted to forego that issue. I wanted to avoid it at all costs, so I got baby kale. So I didn't really have to process it. Didn't really have to worry about the stems being too thick. So that's what I would suggest. If you're putting in a casserole especially, I'd get baby kale. That's what I did, and I am very optimistic that's going to be good.
Could you substitute spinach?
Could you substitute spinach? Absolutely. I feel like you could substitute spinach. You could probably even put collard greens in here. You could do probably some mustard greens. I don't know about arugula.
Longer cooking time, though.
Pardon me?
They require a longer cooking time.
What do? I'm sorry. What does?
The different greens require more of a cooking time.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
I've never cooked with too many greens before other than collards.
Require more time?
They require more time, yes.
All right, so can we all see all set? I can even do one of these numbers. Really doesn't need to be cooked too much more than that. We really just want to cook it down, get it nice and soft. And then after that, let's see what else we're going to add in. We're going to add in the sherry, we're going to add in the kale, reduce heat, we're going to cook a little bit longer, and then once the kale is wilted, we're going to transfer it to a large mixing bowl, mix it with the pasta, the soup. We just have a simple cream of potato. If you wanted to, you could do cream of mushroom soup and also snag some mushrooms and add mushrooms to it. Do a lot of flavor, absolutely. A lot of veggies too, which is wonderful. All right, so we're going to cook this down just a little bit. I want to get rid of some of this excess moisture. So I'm going to let that cook just a little bit. While I'm doing that, I'm going to open up our soup. Now, what you can do is, soup is really affordable for the most part. And this recipe just says 1 can of cream of mushroom soup. So you just get a simple can. Did I say mushroom?
Yeah. Use the mushroom too.
Sorry.
It would have been good too.
If this was my recipe, I probably would have been adding mushrooms to it, honestly. I probably would have. So in a bowl, I'm going to add in the soup. And I'm going to transfer my pasta.
So we don't, the cream soup, we do not add any liquid to that?
To the cream soup, I don't believe. Let's look at the instructions, because in my casserole at home, I do. I'll add, especially if I'm getting a small can, I'll add a can of this, and then I'll fill it up with milk if I have it, or just water. And then not only it'll help me get the rest of the stuff out. Yes, absolutely. But for here, I don't see anything. Does anybody else see anything that I'm missing?
No.
The broth, I'm sorry. I'm talking about the soup, though, for this moment. Does anybody see anything in addition to the soup? Okay, I don't either. So we're going to skip.
You don't get the full flavor from that.
That's why they
From the broth. Okay.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking. All right. So we got some pasta. We're going to add in our mixture now that that liquid's gone. So if we can see what it looked like before to what it looks like now, you can kind of see that there's a lot less moisture going on up in there. So we're going to turn that down. We're going to add some of this there.
noticed that usually with fish or seafood, they add lemon or dill.
Yes.
But I noticed that you're not adding lemon or dill in this recipe.
No, I'm not.
You know?
Yeah, simply just,
Something you could add, I guess.
You
could
absolutely
definitely add it,
could.
Yes.
yes, you totally could. Dill, lemon, yeah, even the radish, or not radish, relish, like if you ever make the tartar sauce. Has anybody ever made homemade tartar sauce?
Yes. Very easy.
It's so easy. It's a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of relish, and a little bit of lemon juice if you're feeling.
Hot sauce in there too, nice.
Well, the hot sauce, there you go. All right, so our mixture, we got the pasta, we got the soup, we're gonna add in the vegetable broth, and let me see, how much breadcrumbs are we looking at? And then 1/3 cup, so I'm gonna add in that real quick before I forget. Okay, and then do our broth. Now for the broth, I just got a simple low sodium option. There's pretty much always an option for low sodium soups and broths, except for I couldn't find any low sodium cream of potato soup. That was one thing I really couldn't find. All right, and last but not least, our tuna. Alrighty, there we go. Now I pre-greased this up. The recipe does say to oil it, make it, grease it, make it lubricated if you may. I just used a simple spray, and I'm just going to get out some of the excess and just wipe it around.
And that's to stop the sticking of the food, yes.
That's pretty much it. That is my understanding, is that it's simply just to help with the sticking so that you can really scoop down and get a nice mixture. I'm going to use my hands for this. I don't really like using utensils for mixing stuff that much. So I'm going to just mix this up. The cheese that it calls for is a mozzarella. So that's what we're going to be using today. If I were making this, I would absolutely use like a Parmesan probably, too, in addition to.
Or several cheeses. Mix them up.
Or a bunch of different cheeses. You could use anything. I feel like I'm making a huge mess right now. Should have gotten a bigger bowl.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It
It's-
looks delicious already.
Thank you. It's still coming together nicely. It is. And you could use a utensil if you want. I like using my hands when I'm cooking. All right, and then you can just transfer that. Sorry, this feels weird. You're gonna transfer that on over. Honestly, but this is probably how I do cooking at home, in full transparency.
Now, when you add the cheese, is it mixed in or just on the top?
We're gonna add it right on top. So what I like to do, because I make casseroles pretty often, I actually literally just made tater tot casserole last night.
Yeah.
So we got some tater tots, we got some ground turkey, some cheese, some onions, some mushrooms, and I put cheese on top. And I don't stop there. I'll bake it, and then once it's done baking, I'll like broil it for a little bit, which means on super high heat. So what that does is it helps make it kind of like crispy on the top, and it makes the cheese kind of turn from a white to like a bubbly brown. So I'm gonna do a nice little layer on top.
I love casseroles too.
They're so fun, they're so easy.
Absolutely, and if you work, and I did this when my children were younger, they were going to school. On Sundays, we had casseroles. I would make casseroles for about 3 or 4 of them, put it in the freezer, and I didn't have to cook the rest of the week. I just
Right.
pulled out a casserole.
I do that all the time.
You know what else is super convenient? That, you know what, next session we might focus on? What were you gonna say?
Breadcrumbs on top too.
You do some breadcrumbs on top, why not?
Yay!
I was gonna say, what was I gonna say? What were we just talking about? I'm sorry.
He's talking about
Crock pot recipes.
Okay.
Crock pot recipes. They're also really convenient in addition to.
You could freeze them and then cook them.
Absolutely. You can leave for work in the morning. You can come back later and they'll be ready to go.
Especially with a bowl like that. From the freezer to the oven, to the table.
What about the Instapot? I use the Instapot. I don't have time for all that.
Yeah,
Instapot, you can do that.
I got every appliance there is.
So I'm gonna throw this in the oven. Those of you in the audience, you guys can be able to see it bake. Those of you who are tuning in, hopefully you'll be able to see the end process. We might be ending early, like I mentioned before. But I'm gonna bake this for 25 minutes, and then we're gonna see what that looks like. It should look just like the picture if we're lucky.
So in 25 minutes, we're going to enjoy.
Yes, absolutely.
And no one says it should have been a
Say
bigger
goodbye.
casserole. No, I'm saying it's gonna be so good that you might could have been a bigger casserole.
All right, so casseroles. What you could also do if you wanted to meal prep is you can make the casserole ahead of time like we just did. Maybe somebody already mentioned it, but you can cover up with foil and stick that itself in the freezer. If you don't want to use a baking dish, but you also want to meal prep, you could always put all the ingredients. Notice how I literally just mashed it all together. You can make the mash and freeze that, and then in the future take that out, thaw it, and then all that stuff. Let's just set that one. Got all that stuff on there. All right. So, for those of you who are here, we went and got us a little bit of end of cohort celebration, some food over here on the table. So when we're done with demonstration, I'm going to wrap up here in a hot second. We have some pasta salad and some macaroni salad. We also have some whole wheat crackers. And for those, we got some chicken and tuna salad too. So we have those. We have some fruit. We have some sparkling water, a couple of different flavors around here somewhere, and some regular water and coffee. So we're just going to hang out, wait for this to bake, enjoy each other's company. If you guys have any questions that we didn't get to at the demonstration.
I have a question.
Yes, and I'm also going to talk to you guys real quick about our Ask the Farmer session. But maybe I'll say goodbye before I do that, or do it now. Okay.
Yeah, but you said this is the last cooking session?
So this is the last cooking session, and this is the last session for Healthy Habits cohort. So this specific cohort is ended. There's going to be future cohorts and future programs that are going to be beginning very soon, which we're going to talk to you guys about. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does,
Okay.
because I'm looking forward to your plans for additional cooking classes, because I learn better when you're demonstrating.
True.
And I get a chance to see what's going on.
Well, that's good. That makes me happy. That means that it's working. That's the whole point. So,
We're gonna miss you.
all right. So with that, those who are tuning in, thank you guys for tuning in. I'll be there later on today with your food drop-offs, and thank you for joining. We look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you for Project Healthy Community.
There we go.